In the black community, we all kind of grow up to be hard. Growing up as a male, you're already taught to be some type of protector, some type of forceful, dominant figure. As a black male, it's even worse because you have to literally walk around always in a state of what's going on. You're never really conditioned to be vulnerable, to be showing your emotions.
This concept around black masculinity and the things that go on with it, and particularly, it always seems to really highlight the sexuality. I think what's beautiful about Malachi and Adae's relationship is that the two live in two completely different worlds sexually, but they are very comfortable with each other and they're very accepting of one another in that space that they're in. And what you don't see from Adae and Malachi is that they don't judge each other. They've been friends for each other, they've been there for each other when it counted most, and that's what matters.
It was extremely important for me to show images that I felt were lacking in mainstream media. One of those images was definitely a healthy relationship amongst black men. And I absolutely love the scenes that we have shot for Adae and Kwasi because we don't get to see that. And representation is so important for us to be able to see two black men love each other. And it's not about sex. We're able to show two human beings connect on a very visceral level in a way that no matter if you're gay or if you're straight that you can relate to. I personally feel that that storyline is going to be, I think, a fan favorite.
The Emmy-nominated, the award-winning producer, writer, director, content creator extraordinaire, Mr. James Bland. How you doing, sir?
Yo, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us here at Blackwithnochaser, man. We really appreciate it.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate what you guys are doing in terms of amplifying our stories and, you know, our voices as a community. So it's really an honor to be able to speak directly to you guys and to your audience.
Thank you very much, man. That's what we're, trying to do. We're trying to be that voice, that unapologetic, voice of our people, man, the propaganda machine of black people. So,
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say we need that. So I'm glad you guys are filling that space.
Appreciate it, man. And, that's exactly what we see you doing with Giants, man. I just want to get right into it, man, because, I personally think it is one of the best shows that I've ran across in a very, very long time. Now, for those of you who don't know, who may be late to the party like I was, but it's better late than never, Giants is a huge benefit to us. It's a great show with great storytelling, great plot, great cinematography, great acting, just all around just a great show. So speaking of which, where did the idea of Giants come from?
Yeah, man, Giants started as a short film that I wrote maybe around like 2010. To be honest, I moved to Los Angeles in 2008, fresh out of Florida A&M University, moved here to pursue television and film, but, arrived to the city with no car, really no family or friends out here, and no job. And so I found myself, once I landed an internship that ended and I was walking home from work and got robbed at gunpoint. It was a crazy experience. These three dudes just rolled up on me with a gun and was like, give us your shit. And it turned into an altercation, just a wild experience that I eventually wrote about. And that short film that I wrote sat on my computer and I never produced it. Went off, worked on a bunch of things, stayed in LA. And I would say about 8 years after that incident was at a place where I really wanted to do my own series. And I was coming out for doing a really successful series called First that was on Issa Rae's YouTube channel. And I really sat down and when I asked myself what I wanted to say, I thought about that short film. And it was a story of perseverance and resilience and really not only dealing with the external and the physical obstacles and hurdles that we face, but also those internal giants, those internal demons, those things that really stand between us and our destiny. And I was at that place at a crossroad, really coming into my identity and myself and deciding how I wanted to show up in the world. And I took a look in the mirror and I took a look around me and I decided to write about not only myself and my experiences, but the experiences of my friends. And that's, how Giants was born.
That's pretty dope, man. Like I couldn't help but like notice how the stories that I've seen in season one thus far are very personable, like very relatable to, whether you fresh out of college, whether you, corporate life, whether you couch surfing or whatever, it's like very relatable. And one of the things that stuck out to me was Journey, like
Yeah.
with May being Mental Health Awareness Month. Her story, what she's going through with depression and whatnot, man, that struck a chord with a lot of people. Like, I jumped into the comments and was reading some of the things, and that really stuck out to me. Like how you guys had your finger on the pulse of what we go through, in Black America. And the thing about mental illness, where it's a taboo subject sometimes, it's stigma associated with it, and y'all address that. Like, what made you go, that route with her character?
Yeah, Vanessa, who's the actress that plays Journey, she is the reason that character exists. I wrote that character for her, and she played it brilliantly. But Journey is largely a reflection of how I saw Vanessa, at that time. I've known Vanessa since college. We both went to school in Tallahassee, her Florida State, I FAMU. She moved to LA to basically reboot her acting career because she had been acting since she was 4 years old and she wasn't booking. And she would spend a lot of times coming to my house and just lounging on my couch. And she was very open and honest about her struggles with depression. I got to tell you, I hadn't really dealt with depression myself or really seen it, from anyone around me prior to Vanessa in that particular way. I don't think I ever really witnessed someone be so open and honest and vulnerable about it. And I really thought I haven't really seen this on screen. I haven't heard many folks talking about this experience and the struggle. And so I wrote Journey for Vanessa, not only to give her a lane and an avenue to express herself artistically in hopes that this character would be therapeutic for her, but in addition to give her a gym, as an actress to showcase her talents, and her work. And in return, the role ended up, healing some folks, ended up being representative to a lot of just Black and brown people's experiences. And I think we were kind of a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of Black folks talking about mental health in media, because I think I see it a bit more now in TV shows. Insecure is a great example. Molly's going to therapy, which is phenomenal and great. I think at the time when I was writing Giants, I hadn't seen it. And so I decided to be the change I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly, man. And like I said, I really like the direction that you guys took it, man. And, you made her vulnerable, as well as I really felt her. I felt bad for her. I was happy for her when she was, able to get up and move around, and felt bad when she was laying there, crying and depressed. I mean, it was really a masterful job that she did, and she, really deserved, that Emmy that she won for it.
Hands down, she deserved that goddamn Emmy. Yeah.
Like she really played that part, man. I think y'all should have won every category y'all was up for, man.
That would have been nice, but there's a lot of politics that goes behind all of the awards as well. But we were blessed to be in the room and to be able to represent a particular people of color, because I can tell you that the daytime Emmys does not fully reflect us, in our experience in terms of the shows that are there, and also even just the audience. When we look around, we are the Black faces in the room. So I'm happy that Giants could start to just kind of be that agent of diversity, for the daytime Emmys.
Yeah, like I saw some of the vids that you posted, you know, of y'all at the Emmys, and like y'all have like this very tight knit, you know, family style group, you know, and I couldn't help but notice like, you know, the love, you know, between y'all, and I think that's really dope to see, knowing that it's not just an act, you know, that we see on screen, but that love is very real, and I think that's something, you know, we all need to see. You know, representation matters.
Yeah, we can go farther together. You know, when we stick together, when we link arms, we decide to come together to create something that's bigger than ourselves. I think that's how we really create projects and movements, like period. You know, I
Right.
think it's movement, not only in media but just across, you know, the board. Like Black folks coming together to create and build and represent us and to tell stories, you know, by us, you know, for us. I think that is the way, that is the movement that I want to be
Exactly. Now, you talked about, you know, telling stories for us, by us. You know, like the stories that you're telling in Giants, are they geared towards like a specific audience, a certain segment, or are they all just stories that you have, you know, within your heart that you felt like you just needed to get out?
Yeah, I would say the latter. There's stories that are inside of me that I needed to get out. I knew that they would speak to people that look like me, because I feel that we have similar, of course, experiences. But I never really sat down and said, "Hey, I want to write a show for the AA demo or for millennials." I just wanted to share my experience with me being an African American and with me being a millennial. I think naturally the show, the tone, the voice speaks to that audience, and that is our core audience. But I've been, man, just surprised and overjoyed when I see and hear people who are outside of that, you know, demo watch and really respond to the show. And I think that kind of lets us know we're on the right path, because great stories are universal. You know, no matter if you have personally lived this experience, you can still identify and relate to the human condition. But also, we're talking about just human issues, um, depression, sexuality, you know, purpose. Those are topics and issues that transcend, you know, race and age and gender and sexuality. It's a human, you know, condition. And so I think also that's why the show resonates not only with millennials of color, but folks outside of that box.
Yeah, you know, like some of the topics that you touch on, a lot of people can relate to, like you said, depression, sexuality. But what makes it so cool and so dope to me is that you talk about a lot of stuff that our community just don't address head on. You know, it's always the elephant in the room, and the way you guys are taking it on, you know, it's really really a wonderful thing. And I guess that's why, like everybody that I've showed, you know, turned on to this show and binge watched it has said the same thing about how, you know, something you said or something you did, you know, resonated with them. Like the first episode when you were doing the modeling gig,
Yeah,
and you was talking to the lady about you said the line about how justice is blind, but she definitely sees color.
yeah.
Like,
Bitch see color really well.
yeah, yeah, like when you said that, man, I slammed the table. Like, man, that shit is spot on, man. Like, you know,
I wrote that episode out. It was around the time Eric Gardner had been choked to death in New York. And I remember it was like Eric, and then it was like Mike Brown, and then it was like Tamir Rice. And I really didn't have a direction, you know, for the show. When I first sat down and wrote that first season, I just wrote what was on my heart and on my mind. You know, and so at times things may seem disconnected or things may feel like they come left field. And it was because I was literally just writing what I wanted to say. And that particular monologue just came at a time where we were seeing so many Black, unarmed young men in particular being killed at the hands of officers. And I was frustrated, and it's what I wanted to say. And I was able to work it into that episode. But yeah, man, so that's kind of where it came from.
that was probably one of the best lines that I've heard in a long time, man. Again, it resonated with me on so many different levels. Because I've been stopped by police for no reason. Like we all as black men and black women, we all have a story to tell when it comes to, racism, when it comes to discrimination, when it comes to profiling, when it comes to interactions with the police. And, that line just covered the whole thing, in 6-7 words. Like man, you dropped a lot of jewels. Like with Journey when she met what she called Caramel Brown.
Talk Caramel.
Yeah. When she was getting out the car and you stopped and you was like, "Hey, you're enough." Just 2 words, man. I had somebody that text me when they saw it and they was like, 2 words to show a black man supporting a black woman, no matter what it is. That was like a very deep line, man. Like, I mean, I can go on and on about some of the stuff y'all said in that, man, but it wouldn't do it justice. People need to really watch it to really fully understand it.
For sure.
Now, you said you moved to LA 2008 from FAMU. I read somewhere you got an MBA.
No, bachelor's. Yeah.
Oh, bachelor's. Okay.
Business administration. Yeah.
Like how did you transition from business to this world of acting, directing, and producing?
You know what? I used to think that maybe I had wasted time going to business school, but I'm so happy that I have that background because it really is the reason why I was able to produce this 2 seasons of a series independently, where I was able to raise, the funds and kind of manage an entire cast and crew of people. Is because of that business background and the experiences and the cultivation that I had at FAMU. But I started making films while I was in college. I always had an interest in the arts and decided to really explore it more while I was, at FAMU. And so I ended up at Florida State auditioning initially for student films, and that kind of, got me interested more in the behind the scene aspects of filmmaking, or just really the entire process of filmmaking. So I met Will Packer. I want to say around my junior year. He finished in the movie Stump the Yard, and I just kind of told him I wanted to be a filmmaker, and he really encouraged me to make a film because him and Rob Hardy made their first film, Chocolate City, while they were, I think, sophomores at FAMU, engineering majors. So none of us was studying film. We were making movies. And so I made my first film while I was at FAMU, and I premiered it in our auditorium, Lee Hall, and folks actually came out to watch it. And after that, I was like, yo, this is what I want to do, with the rest of my life. And so I moved to LA on a leap of faith. And I stayed in touch with Will Packer, and he gave me my first internship in LA. I worked on a movie called Takers. And that allowed me to get my feet wet on an actual studio film. I ended up staying at the studio, or coming back to that same studio, and worked as a production assistant and as a cast assistant, and then an assistant to one of the senior vice presidents and creative executives. And that's how I got my start initially in Los Angeles. So while I was working at a studio, simultaneously I was writing and directing my first short film in LA. It was a comedy called Coco Love, about a dog funeral. Did that project, and then eventually realized, all right, I need to kind of go all in, because I was working full time and doing film part time and taking acting classes on the weekends. And then after 3 years of doing that, I decided to leave the studio system and become artist. So I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 people, and that's a little bit of why Malachi, Journey, and A Day, 3 of them, move into this 1 bedroom, because I had that experience of having my mattress in the living room, so I gave that to Journey. And so a lot of Giants, man, it's just pulled from my personal experiences. That's how I write. That's how I write best. They say, write what you know. Right. And that's what I'm doing. It's just pulling these experiences and molding them into, stories and characters that, reflect, me and my experience, at times, but also kind of take on a life of their own.
Right. Yeah, like I couldn't help but notice like one of the parallels between something you just said now in a day, where he had his masters and his relationship with his father deteriorated because he decided to pursue dance instead of, what he went to school for. And that's kind of like, what you did. You went away from what you classically studied and decided to chase your dreams. And man, I'm telling you, man, you doing your thing with this one, man. Now you mentioned Will Packer, and we've seen a bunch of great directors and producers, your Spike Lee's, your Antoine Fuqua's, John Singleton, rest in peace, Ava DuVernay. What producer or director or filmmaker period has inspired you the most?
Oh man, the most? That's a tough question. Initially my first film inspiration was Spike Lee. When I think about some of my favorite films, from Do the Right Thing to Crooklyn, to Malcolm X, I think I had every single Spike Lee film on DVD by the time I moved to LA. So I was a huge Spike fan. I think like most filmmakers of color, like Spike was the example. He was writing, directing, and acting. And essentially that's what I wanted to do. I could say my very first film influence was Steven Spielberg because my favorite film of all time is The Color Purple. But I think more recently, I'm looking at Ryan Coogler and at Barry Jenkins as when I think about the type of stories I want to tell and the type of filmmaker I want to be, Ryan Coogler is on and Barry are on the pulse of that. From Fruitvale Station and doing films that kind of speak to our humanity, but also tackles, social justice issues. I aspire to do that, and you saw glimpses of that in Giants. And Barry Jenkins, the way he's able to portray Black love and vulnerability and in a very art house, type of a way, in a way that it isn't necessarily thought of as like a mainstream type of a story, but has the ability to cross over. In particular with Moonlight receiving the Academy Award and with Beale Street doing so well and during award season, I aspire to do that. I don't want to make stories or films just for commercial appeal, but I want to make films that are so fucking good that they have the ability, to cross over, that they're undeniable. Yeah. You can tell a story about two queer men of color, in the hood. With a mom who's a drug addict, and it could still win an Academy Award. You know what I mean? And that right. Work story is so far away from most people who would probably go and see that film, or even members of the Academy who voted for that film. Yet the amount of humanity that existed was so palpable that you just couldn't deny it.
Yeah, indeed, man. Like we always say, here at Blackwithnochaser, representation matters, and what you're doing is a positive representation, man, because we don't see ourselves enough on the big screen or on mainstream television, in the right way. I remember growing up and seeing people on TV. You go to the credits and you see these Black people, and there's always pimp number one or drug dealer number two, or things like that. And, to see the tide shifting with some of the, directors that you named, and like people like you and Issa Rae doing their things, and, like Dear White People and things like that, but we're seeing ourselves in a whole different, better light is just a wonderful thing to see. And that's, part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing here, because we want to see more of us win.
Love it.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you, you talked about some of the things that you've done earlier, and I read somewhere that you created maybe 4 or 5, different shows before Giants that had varying success. How did you handle the adversity of things not going the way that you planned them, or hoped that they would go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I just always believed that this was my purpose. And because I knew it was my purpose in terms of being a storyteller, being a filmmaker, I really worked extremely hard not to let the praise or the criticism validate me. I just knew that I had to continue doing what it is that I love to do and what I have been called to do. And so prior to Giants, having done 4 or 5 other series, some I created, some I just produced or directed or acted on, and those not finding the success that I would have hoped for, there were times where I would question, when is it my time? And knowing that I had the ability and the skill set to compete, but also that my projects could stand side by side with a lot of the other projects that I saw who were really soaring, in a way, or people were kind of rallying behind. I was like, damn, have you not seen my shit? Or, some of the some of the short films that I've done, like for example, me and Will Catlett, who's a phenomenal actor. If you guys saw Love, he played Yasir, and he's also on Black Lightning. He plays Lala. Him and I did this short film, and we submitted it to every single film festival, from the Sundance to the Tribecas to the ABFF. So we didn't get in any of those festivals, and so we hit up Issa and we put it up on the YouTube channel. But I think the thing was, we just always knew that. We knew that we were good. We knew that we had something to say. We knew that we were in our purpose, but we knew that the vision awaits an appointed time. It's like Habakkuk 2 and 3. And it says sometimes it lingers, you got to wait on it. And so for me, it was always reminding myself, don't get tired of waiting. It's like, can you wait and not get tired of waiting? Right. The time is your time. You have to trust the universe. And so, me, it was just always having like those things to go to inspire me. I would find YouTube videos of people that I looked up to, and I would just watch those, and also hearing other people's stories and hearing how their journey was a journey of sometimes a decade, 10 years, that, we saw the glory, but we didn't see the work or the process. And then now, like, I've been listening to TD Jake's interviews on crushing, and him talking about how, just like a grape, you have to be crushed before you become wine. And so I've really been at a place of humbling myself, of knowing that this season of sometimes solitude that I was in, and even now that I'm getting more recognition, still knowing that I still have so far to go, that's a part of, my crushing, and that you have to be hidden before you're revealed. Right. And so that's how I made it through. I mean, that's how I kept going, and I didn't quit, as I reminded myself of these things. And I knew that the promise was the promise. And sometimes the promise lingers, but the promise is a promise, and the prophecy will be fulfilled. And that's what I knew for sure. So, yeah, it just kept going, just kept creating.
That's dope, man. Yeah. Very, very great story. Now you brought up Will, man. Next time you talk to Will, man, tell him his character Yasir got a lot of brothers in trouble, man. Like trying to live up to some of the stuff that he was doing, man. Like I was watching with my wife, and a certain scene happened, and she just looked over me like, I'm like, what? I didn't do it, But man, he like you said, he's a phenomenal actor, man.
You gotta watch First on Issa's YouTube channel as well. First is really similar to Love Is, and so if you enjoyed that show, I know you guys only got one season of Love Is, unfortunately, but you get 2 seasons of First, so you should check that out. And I think you'll also kind of really get into that love story as well.
Now, do you guys work directly with Issa, or are you just a part of her channel?
Yeah, we're just a part of her channel. Issa's busy. Yeah. Issa's doing a lot of things, and so she built a company along with Denise Davis. They have a company called Color Creative, and so through Color Creative, they distribute the work of other content creators. And so, so we get the opportunity to be adjacent to Issa via Color Creative and her YouTube channel, but she's still, really supportive. But they still give us kind of the autonomy to do our own thing, and the space and the freedom to just create, while still giving us the support of the YouTube channel, in addition to their social media arms to promote this content.
No, that's dope, man. It's good to be, parallel with good people who's actually, doing positive things and growing. Like, for some, she just came out of nowhere, but she had been grinding just like, you grinding. I'm pretty sure you'll have the same success, if not more, with the work that I've come across so far.
I appreciate
Now,
it. And hopefully Issa and I will continue to do things together. So yeah.
well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And if you do, please, please, please email Blackwithnochaser. Let us just be in the room when it pop off. Man.
Yeah, you got my word on that. You guys will get that invite.
I really appreciate it, man. So, another thing I wanted to ask you, like you was telling, talking about your story and how you came up. What is some advice that you would give aspiring filmmakers and content creators?
Yeah, tell your story. I think, and don't wait for permission to do it. And don't get paralyzed by perfection. Don't feel like you need the approval, the backing, or the support of anyone, or of any major, let's say, corporation or studio. You guys can really just start with a group of friends, a camera, and a script, and make it happen. I mean, I would imagine similar to what you guys have done with Blackwithnochaser. Like, that is my advice. Is I find too many artists wanting to link with folks, and they feel like that's the way you got to do it. That I gotta get my script to Tyler Perry or to Ava DuVernay. I think Issa said it best in this interview when she was like, network laterally, and like find the folks who are next to you and who are beside you, link arms and come together and decide that you're gonna get this project off the ground. Then in that same, circle, support each other in, pushing that, project. But also, you have to be willing to sacrifice something. And like for me with Giants, it was working a full-time job, funding season 1 of Giants, myself. And it was me putting thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into the project before I ever asked anybody, for a dime. But a lot of folks want to do a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo, crowdfund campaign before they've ever, shot even a proof of concept or a pilot.
Right.
Which we shot a full season. I didn't ask anybody for no money. I went and shot a full season for a year and then did a crowdfund to say, hey, will you help me get this, to the finish line? And so stop waiting for permission and just stop waiting, period. And know that your first project may not be the one that takes off. Aqua Black Girl wasn't Issa's first web series. I think it was like her third or her fourth. I say Giants wasn't, the first thing. You got to do one thing to get to the next thing. And so you just get started and know that it is about the work. It hasn't always will be about the work. So align your intentions with the work. And if the work is to create quality content, if the work is to create something that gives you a space to express yourself artistically, know that if you got 100 views or if you got 100,000 views, that you still are successful, that you succeeded in, creating what it is that you set out to create. So, align your intentions with the work, and an audience will find you, and you will find your audience.
That's dope. It really is. Now, speaking of work, what other works do you have coming out that we can look forward to seeing you in, whether it's directing, producing, or acting?
For sure. So I recently directed a music video. You guys got to go check out. It's almost at 1 million views on YouTube. It's like 900,000, but it's from an artist named Timar. And the music video is called One Job. So go check that out. It actually stars John Ali, who plays Issa's brother in Insecure. It also has Lala Milan in there, who's on BET's Boomerang. So you can check that out. Recently directed that. In addition, I just shot romantic comedy written by Yvette Nicole Brown, directed by Trey Haley. I'm not sure when that's coming out or if it'll be theaters or, streaming, whether it's like Netflix or, a TV movie. But it's called Always a Bridesmaid. Look out for that. And, I'm in the lab. I'm writing. I'm figuring out what my next project is going to be. I'm figuring out what's next for Giants in terms of the third cycle, whether that's a third season or maybe a movie. I've been exploring that, option as well, in terms of how to continue these characters. But so I'm writing another movie right now about an HBCU homecoming and developed another half-hour show that really dives into the intersection of masculinity and sexuality. So not sure when those projects kind of will even be in production, but in terms of what you can expect, in terms of the types of things and the types of projects that I'm developing, looking to produce, know that it's going to be a continuation of the themes that we explored in Giants and just a continuation of telling our stories and it being reflective of just us, man. And it's always going to be unapologetically Black.
Yes, indeed. Man. I really appreciate you stopping by, talking with us, man. I love your story. Speaking of your works, we're here for it. We're looking forward to it all. Now, before I let you go, please tell everybody where they can find you, whether it's IG, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere.
Of course. So you can find me at JR Bland. That's JRB as in boy, LAND, on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook. I don't even know my Facebook. It's like facebook.com/ maybe like Billionaire Bland or something like that. But I'm sure you can get to it if you Google James Bland Facebook. You can watch Giants on the Issa Rae YouTube channel. That's issarae.com or youtube.com/Issa Rae. You can probably also find it at issarae.com, or you can just go to giantstheseries.com and you can follow the show on social at Giants the Series on Instagram, Twitter, and facebook.com/Giants.
We will most definitely do that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Emmy nominated, the Indie Award winning, the awesome director, producer, actor, content creator, Mr. James Bland.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you for stopping by. I appreciate your work, and we are definitely behind you and looking forward to everything that you're doing.
I appreciate it. And I'll be back for sure. We're going to figure out some more things, to do with Blackwithnochaser. Other ways I can get the cast and crew involved. So, yeah, man, I look forward to this continued partnership and relationship.
Thank you very much. Now we will be having a watch party for Giants, man. Like right now we're at 250,000 followers, and we have a reach about 7 million people a month. So we want to put it out there. We do other shows, so we want to do one for us, by us, and make sure everybody tunes in and sees it. And I hope I know it'll take off once they see it. And the hope is, get you to come back, talk directly to the fans, because I'm pretty sure they will love Giants.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the awesome Mr. James Bland.
Appreciate it.